Captain James Drake noticed it first during his morning observation on the bridge of the Leviathan. Earth's most advanced spaceship hung silently in orbit, its massive hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Drake's weathered face frowned as he studied the readings on his screen. "Something wrong, Captain?" asked Officer Bell, looking up from her station. Drake ran a hand through his short gray hair. "The sensor array is picking up unusual energy patterns beyond Neptune. Been watching them grow stronger for the past week." He tapped the screen, bringing up a three-dimensional map of the solar system. Small red dots appeared at the edges, moving slowly but steadily inward. "I don't like this," Drake muttered. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command." General Wilson stood before the United Defense Council, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. The large underground chamber beneath New Geneva hummed with tense conversation as world leaders and military advisors filled their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen," Wilson began, "what I'm about to share is classified Level Red." The room fell silent. Level Red was reserved for existential threats to human survival. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations went dark, one by one. She pressed a button, and the wall behind her lit up with a star map. First, the Alpha Centauri outpost, then Proxima, then the research bases in the Barnard system. "Equipment failure?" asked one of the council members. Wilson shook her head. Each sent the same message before going silent. "They are here." Murmurs spread through the room. Astronomers at the Lunar Observatory have confirmed that a large fleet of unknown vessels has entered our solar system, Wilson continued. "Their technology is unlike anything we've ever seen." President Carter stood up, her face pale but determined. "Have they attempted communication?" As if on cue, the screens around the room flickered and changed. A figure appeared, almost human in shape, but with grayish skin and eyes too large and dark to be from Earth. "People of the third planet," the figure said in perfect English, "I am High Commander Vex of the Galactic Dominion. For 10,000 years, we have brought order to the stars. Your world now falls under our protection. Resistance is both futile and unnecessary." The council chamber erupted in shouted questions, but President Carter raised her hand for silence. "What does protection mean exactly?" she asked. The alien smiled, revealing teeth too perfect and white. "It means you will serve the Dominion. Your resources and people will contribute to our greater purpose. Those who accept this truth will be treated well. Those who resist will be removed." President Carter's jaw tightened. "And if we decline your offer, then you will be conquered like all the others." The alien's image zoomed out, revealing a massive warship behind him. "We arrive in 3 of your Earth days. Prepare your surrender protocols." The transmission cut off. After a moment of stunned silence, General Wilson cleared her throat. "Madam President, it's time to activate Project Leviathan." On Mars Base Alpha, Commander Reed was enjoying his morning coffee when the alarms blared. He rushed to the control room, where chaos had erupted. "Report," he shouted over the noise. "Multiple objects entering Mars orbit," replied the young lieutenant at the scanner. "They're not responding to hails. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Reed looked at the monitor. At least 30 ships, each larger than anything humans had built, were positioning themselves around Mars. "Battle stations," Reed ordered, "and get me Earth Command now." Before the communications officer could comply, the first shots were fired. Energy beams of blinding intensity struck the base's defensive shields. The entire structure shook. "Shields at 60%. Someone shouted. Reed grabbed the emergency comm. "All personnel, evacuate to the underground shelters. This is not a drill." More beams struck the base. Equipment exploded, and emergency lights flashed on as the main power failed. Shields failing. Reed watched in horror as the alien ships descended toward the surface, their weapons tearing through Mars Base Alpha's defenses like paper. His last transmission to Earth was brief. "They're here. God help us all." Back on Earth, the United Defense Council was in emergency session when the news from Mars arrived. All Mars bases have fallen, General Wilson reported grimly. We've lost contact with the lunar stations as well. They're moving faster than we anticipated. President Carter looked around the table. Options. Admiral Jones stood up. Madam President, for the past 15 years, we've been preparing for this possibility. Since the first alien signals were detected in the Kuiper Belt, we've been building. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. A massive orbital defense network surrounding Earth. Aegis system, he explained. Thousands of automated defense platforms equipped with our most advanced weapons technology. If they want Earth, they'll have to fight for it. Will it be enough? Asked the president. General Wilson looked grim. Honestly, probably not. Not against what we're seeing, but it will buy us time to deploy our real weapon. She brought up a new image. A spacecraft unlike any other in Earth's fleet, sleek and dark. Its design seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Nearly 2 kilometers long, its shape vaguely resembled ancient sea creatures from Earth's oceans. The Leviathan, Wilson said. The most advanced weapons platform humanity has ever created. It's been in secret trials for 3 years. Captain Drake reports it's ready for combat. One ship against an armada? Someone asked skeptically. Wilson smiled thinly. This isn't just a ship. It's our best minds and most advanced technology combined with something they won't expect. Which is? President Carter pressed. Human ingenuity, Madam President. Plus a few surprises we've been working on since we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. Aboard the Leviathan, Captain Drake read his new orders with a grim expression. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing the massive ship for its first real combat mission. Captain, called Officer Bell. We're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet. Drake nodded. Put it through. The main screen showed the same alien face that had addressed Earth earlier. You have one of your planetary rotations remaining to surrender, said High Commander Vex. Already your outposts have fallen. Resistance only brings suffering. Drake leaned forward. This is Captain James Drake of the Earth vessel Leviathan. We've been watching your kind for longer than you think. You should know that humans don't surrender easily. The alien's expression didn't change, but something like amusement flickered in those large eyes. Your primitive vessel, impressive as it may seem to you, cannot stand against the Dominion. We have conquered 1,000 worlds more advanced than yours. Drake smiled. Maybe, but none of them were Earth. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Battle stations. We launch in 1 hour. As the Leviathan's engines hummed to life, Drake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien armada approached, confident in their victory. They had conquered the stars for millennia, spreading their dominion across the galaxy. But they had never met Earth. They had never faced humanity with its back against the wall. And they had never encountered the Leviathan. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The Dominion fleet spread through the solar system like a plague of metal locusts. Their ships, dark and angular, positioned themselves around Jupiter's moons, the rings of Saturn, and the asteroid belt. Within 2 Earth days, they had established bases on Titan, Europa, and Ganymede. From the bridge of the Leviathan, Captain Drake watched the tactical display with growing concern. The alien ships outnumbered Earth forces 20-1. They're methodical, he said to his second-in-command, Officer Bell. Taking control of our resources before they hit Earth directly. Bell nodded grimly. Smart strategy. Cut us off from our mining operations and fuel supplies first. The ship's communication system beeped. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command, reported the communications officer. General Wilson's face appeared on screen. Even through the digital connection, Drake could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Captain, the Dominion fleet is moving towards our orbital defenses. This is it. Aegis system is online and ready, but we need the Leviathan in position. Drake straightened. We're ready, General. Operation Shadow Strike is a go. Wilson's face was solemn. Good hunting, Captain. Earth is counting on you. High above Earth, the first wave of Dominion warships approached the planet. Inside the lead vessel, Admiral Voss observed the blue world with cold curiosity. Primitive but beautiful, he remarked to his officers. Scan for their defenses. Already complete. Admiral, replied his second. Minimal orbital platforms. Basic weapons technology. Nothing our shields can't handle. Voss narrowed his large eyes. Proceed with caution. Intelligence reports suggest these humans are resourceful. The Dominion ships moved forward, their weapons charging. Suddenly, the space around Earth lit up as thousands of previously invisible defense platforms revealed themselves, their camouflage fields dropping. Evasive action, Voss shouted, but it was too late. The Aegis system fired. Thousands of energy beams lanced toward the Dominion fleet. The alien shields flared bright as they absorbed the unexpected assault. Impossible, Voss's second shouted. Our scans showed nothing like this capability. Voss gripped his command chair. All ships, return fire. Break through their defenses. In the Leviathan's engine room, Chief Engineer Miller worked frantically to maintain the ship's experimental drive system. The quantum field is holding steady, he reported to the bridge. We can make the jump whenever you're ready, Captain. On the bridge, Drake nodded. Now we show them what Leviathan can really do. Prepare for quantum shift. The massive ship vibrated as its engines powered up. Unlike conventional drives, the Leviathan's propulsion system could briefly shift the vessel partially out of normal space, allowing it to move incredible distances in seconds. Quantum shift in 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred around them. For a moment, reality itself seemed to bend. Then the Leviathan reappeared, directly behind the Dominion's rear fleet. All weapons, fire, Drake ordered. The Leviathan's main cannons released streams of focused energy, tearing through the unprepared Dominion ships. 3 alien vessels erupted into flames before they could even turn to face this new threat. Hit and run, Drake commanded. Target their supply ships first. Admiral Voss received the reports with growing rage. How did they get behind our lines? Find that Earth ship. Sir, they're gone again, his tactical officer reported. They appear to be using some kind of advanced jump technology. Before Voss could respond, the Leviathan appeared again, this time among the Dominion's fuel tankers. More explosions bloomed in the blackness of space as the human ship struck and vanished once more. Impossible, Voss hissed. No species at their development stage should have this technology. On his command screen, he watched as the orbital defense network continued to hold the main fleet at bay, while the mysterious human vessel appeared and disappeared across the battlefield, striking critical targets before vanishing again. Sir, we've lost 15% of our fleet already, reported his second. The High Command will not be pleased. Voss slammed his fist on his chair. Gather all battle groups. Focus fire on their orbital defenses. I want that human ship found and destroyed. On Earth, in the underground science complex beneath New Geneva, Dr. Morgan analyzed the incoming battle data. There's a pattern to their shield modulation, she said, pointing to the screen where streams of numbers flowed past. Every time our weapons hit them, their shields adjust frequency to match. President Carter leaned closer. Can we use that somehow? Morgan nodded excitedly. If we can predict the modulation pattern, we might be able to calibrate our weapons to pass right through their shields. She quickly sent the findings to General Wilson, who relayed them to the Leviathan. Drake received the new information during a brief respite between attacks. Dr. Morgan's a genius, he told his weapons officer. Recalibrate all our weapons systems according to her specifications. Ready for another jump, Captain, Bell reported. But the quantum drive needs time to cool after this one. We'll be visible for at least 10 minutes afterward. Drake considered his options. Then we make this one count. Target their command ship. The Leviathan shifted again, appearing directly above Admiral Voss's flagship. This time, When the human vessel fired, its energy beams passed through the Dominion shields as if they weren't there. Voss was thrown from his chair as explosions ripped through his ship. "How are they penetrating our shields?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. They've somehow adapted their weapons to our shield frequency." Voss staggered to his feet as more hits rocked the vessel. "All ships change shield frequencies randomly. Don't maintain any pattern." But the damage was done. A third of the Dominion's advance fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest began to pull back, retreating to safer positions near Jupiter. On the Leviathan, the celebration was short-lived. The quantum drive overheated during the last jump, and the ship shuddered as conventional engines struggled to move its massive bulk. 3 Dominion cruisers on approach, Bell warned. "Our weapons are at half power after that last barrage." Drake gripped his chair. Evasive maneuvers. All power to forward shields. The Leviathan trembled as enemy fire struck it repeatedly. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Hull breach on Deck 12. Someone shouted. Emergency teams responding. More blasts hit the human ship. Drake watched as systems failed across the board. Just when it seemed the Leviathan would be torn apart, a fresh wave of fire from Earth's defenses forced the Dominion ships to break off their attack. The Leviathan limped back toward Earth, battered but not beaten. In the aftermath of the battle, both sides assessed their losses. The Dominion fleet had retreated to regroup, but everyone knew they would return, and in greater numbers. Admiral Voss paced his damaged bridge. "I want to know everything about that human ship," he demanded. "Its capabilities, its weaknesses, everything." On Earth, General Wilson delivered her report to a somber defense council. "We bloodied their nose today, but this is just the beginning." The Leviathan performed better than expected, but it's severely damaged. "How long to repair it?" President Carter asked. 3 days, minimum. But our intelligence suggests the Dominion is calling for reinforcements from across their empire. Next time, they'll come with an even larger fleet. Dr. Morgan stepped forward. "I may have something that can help. Something we learned from studying the wreckage of their ships." All eyes turned to her as she began to explain her discovery, one that might give humanity a fighting chance in the battles to come. As the damaged Leviathan docked with Earth's orbital station, Captain Drake looked out at the stars. They had won the first round, but the real war was just beginning. 3 days after the first battle, the skies above Earth grew dark with Dominion ships. The reinforcements Admiral Voss had called for arrived in waves, their massive hulls blocking out the stars as they took position around the planet. In the orbital repair dock, the Leviathan underwent frantic repairs. Technicians worked around the clock, patching hull breaches and replacing damaged systems. Captain Drake hadn't slept in 48 hours, dividing his time between overseeing repairs and strategy meetings with Earth Command. "We counted over 500 new Dominion ships arriving in the last 12 hours. General Wilson reported in the command center beneath New Geneva. "They've established a blockade around Earth. Nothing gets in or out." President Carter looked at the holographic display, showing the alien fleet surrounding their planet. "What about our outer colonies? Mars, the Jupiter stations, all gone," Wilson said grimly. "The Dominion has taken control of every human outpost in the solar system." Dr. Morgan entered the room, carrying a tablet filled with data. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but there was excitement in her voice. "We've made a breakthrough," she announced, "based on the Dominion technology we recovered from the battle." She placed her tablet on the table, and a hologram appeared, showing complex diagrams of alien systems. Their ships use quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances. It's how they coordinate their fleets so effectively. "Can we disrupt it?" asked President Carter. Morgan smiled. "Better. We can hijack it." Aboard the Leviathan, Chief Engineer Miller led Drake through the ship's central core, where a new device was being installed. "We're calling it Project Kraken," Miller explained, pointing to the massive apparatus that hummed with power. Based on Dr. Morgan's research, it can tap into the Dominion's quantum communication network. Drake studied the device with a mixture of hope and skepticism. What exactly will it do? In theory, it could let us listen to their communications, send false orders, or even disable their coordination entirely. Miller patted the machine. It's never been tested in combat, of course, but Dr. Morgan believes it will work. Drake nodded slowly. It has to work. We're running out of options. As they spoke, Officer Bell hurried toward them. Captain, you're needed on the bridge immediately. The Dominion is broadcasting across all frequencies. On screens across Earth, Admiral Voss's face appeared. The alien commander looked confident, his large eyes reflecting cold determination. People of Earth, he began. Your resistance has been noted. It is unusual. Few species fight back once the Dominion arrives. He paused, as if expecting appreciation for the compliment. However, this changes nothing. We have blockaded your world. Your colonies have fallen. Your resources now belong to the Dominion. The camera pulled back to show Voss standing on what appeared to be the surface of the moon, Earth's flag lying torn at his feet. Behind him, Dominion ships landed troops and equipment on the lunar surface. Your moon is now under our control. Soon, we will begin our ground invasion of Earth itself. This is your final opportunity to surrender. The transmission ended, leaving millions of frightened humans staring at blank screens. In cities across Earth, people prepared for invasion. Some fled to the countryside or to underground shelters. Others joined the rapidly expanding defense forces. Weapons were distributed to civilians, and barricades appeared in major cities. But in a secret meeting room beneath New Geneva, Earth's leaders discussed their true plan. The Leviathan repairs are nearly complete, reported General Wilson. Project Kraken is installed and ready for testing. What are our chances? President Carter asked. Dr. Morgan stepped forward. If it works as designed, we could potentially turn the tide. But there's a problem. We need to get close enough to their command ship for Kraken to access their main communication hub. And their command ship is now on the moon, Drake added, joining the meeting via secure video link from the Leviathan. Surrounded by hundreds of Dominion vessels, the room fell silent as the impossible task before them sank in. There's more bad news, Wilson said, breaking the silence. We have reason to believe there's a traitor among us. On the lunar surface, Admiral Voss reviewed the information that had been secretly transmitted to him. The data showed the Leviathan's repair schedule, its new capabilities, and details of Earth's remaining defenses. Excellent, Voss told his second-in-command. Our source continues to provide valuable intelligence. Should we attack now, while their ship is still under repair? Asked the second. Voss considered this. No, I want the Leviathan intact. Its technology is unexpected. High Command wants it studied. He walked to the viewport, gazing at the blue planet hanging in the blackness of space. Prepare a special task force. When the Leviathan launches, we'll be ready to capture it. Back on Earth, security protocols were tightened. Only a handful of people now had access to the full details of Project Kraken and the Leviathan's mission. Even so, Drake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. In the ship's mess hall, he found Dr. Morgan analyzing data on her tablet. How's our new weapon coming along? He asked, sitting across from her. Morgan glanced around to ensure they were alone. The tests are promising. Kraken can definitely tap into their network. But we need to be within 50 kilometers of their main communication hub to activate it safely. Drake frowned. That's practically suicide. Their lunar base is the most heavily defended position in the solar system right now. I know, Morgan said quietly. That's why I've been working on a way to boost the signal. If we can extend Kraken's range, we might be able to activate it from a safer distance. She showed him her calculations. Drake wasn't a scientist, but he understood enough to see the challenge they faced. Keep working on it, he said. We launch in 12 hours, ready or not. As night fell across Earth for perhaps the last time before invasion, the final preparations for the Leviathan's mission were completed. The massive ship disengaged from its repair dock, its engines glowing softly against the darkness of space. On the bridge, Drake addressed his crew. What we attempt today may determine the future of our planet. The Dominion thinks they have us trapped. They believe their technology, their numbers, and their experience conquering other worlds gives them the advantage. He looked at each face, seeing determination reflected back. But they've never faced humans before. They don't understand what we're capable of when everything we love is threatened. As he spoke, the Leviathan's engines powered up, preparing for the desperate mission ahead. On the moon, alert signals blared across the Dominion base. The human vessel has launched, reported a tactical officer. Admiral Voss smiled coldly. Just as our source informed us. Deploy the capture fleet. Remember, I want that ship intact. Dozens of Dominion ships moved into position, forming an elaborate trap designed to force the Leviathan into a specific corridor of space. Voss watched as the human ship approached, apparently unaware of the danger. Soon, he murmured, the Leviathan will be mine. Aboard the Leviathan, Drake noticed the strange pattern of Dominion ships ahead. They're forming a funnel, he observed, trying to guide us into a trap. Bell nodded. They're expecting us to go for the moon, to attack their new base. Drake smiled grimly. Then let's not disappoint them. All hands, prepare for combat maneuvers. The Leviathan accelerated toward the moon, seemingly headed directly into the Dominion's trap. But as they approached the narrowest point of the enemy formation, Drake gave an unexpected order. Dive. The massive ship suddenly changed course, plunging toward Jupiter instead of continuing toward the moon. The quantum drive engaged, and the Leviathan vanished from the Dominion sensors. What happened? Voss demanded as the human ship disappeared from his tracking systems. Find them. But the Leviathan was already far away, hidden within the swirling storms of Jupiter's atmosphere, preparing for a different approach that the Dominion would never expect. Hidden within Jupiter's swirling storms, the Leviathan drifted silently. The massive gas giant's thick atmosphere scrambled sensors, making the ship invisible to Dominion tracking systems. On the bridge, Captain Drake watched the tactical display showing Dominion search parties combing the space between Earth and the moon. They still don't know where we are, Bell reported, but we can't hide here forever. Drake nodded grimly. How's Project Kraken coming along? Dr. Morgan and Chief Miller are making final adjustments. They think they found a way to boost the range. Before Drake could respond, an emergency signal flashed on the main screen. It was General Wilson, her face tense with worry. Captain, the lunar bases have fallen completely. The Dominion has begun landing troops on Earth. Drake's hands tightened on his chair. Where? Major coastal cities first. New York, Shanghai, Rio. They're establishing beachheads for a larger invasion force. Wilson looked away briefly as someone handed her a report. Our ground forces are engaging, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. What about the Aegis defense system? Drake asked. 80% destroyed. The Dominion focused all their firepower on it after you escaped their trap. Wilson's voice lowered. We need the Leviathan, Captain. We need Project Kraken operational now. Drake's jaw tightened. We're working on it. Just hold them as long as you can. The transmission ended, and Drake turned to his crew. Get me Dr. Morgan and Chief Miller. It's time to roll the dice. On Earth, the first waves of Dominion troops marched through the streets of major cities. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight, impervious to most human weapons. Behind them came massive walker machines, towering 3 stories high, crushing everything in their path. But the humans fought back with surprising determination. In New York, civilian militias ambushed Dominion patrols using the city's complex subway system. In Shanghai, modified construction equipment became makeshift battle machines. Everywhere, the invaders found not easy conquest, but bitter, street-by-street resistance. In the command bunker beneath New Geneva, President Carter received hourly reports of the fighting. They're in London now, a general reported. Paris is holding, but barely. Moscow reports heavy fighting in the suburbs. Carter nodded wearily. And our special project? General Wilson checked her secure tablet. Still no word from the Leviathan. They're maintaining radio silence. We need more time, Carter said. Every minute our people keep fighting is another minute for Drake to complete the mission. As they spoke, an aide rushed in. Madam President, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in Saturn's rings. The Dominion is assembling something big. Satellite imagery appeared on the main screen, showing hundreds of Dominion ships gathering around a massive structure taking shape among Saturn's icy rings. Wilson's face paled. That's a planet-killer weapon. They're not planning to conquer Earth anymore. They're going to destroy it. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Voss received the latest battle reports from Earth. The resistance was stronger than expected, with human forces using their knowledge of the terrain to surprising advantage. High Command is growing impatient, his second-in-command noted. They expected Earth to fall within days. Voss's large eyes narrowed. High Command does not understand these humans. They fight differently than other species we've conquered. The planet killer will solve that problem, the second said. Assembly is almost complete. Voss looked at the image of the massive weapon taking shape in Saturn's rings. A part of him regretted the necessity. Earth was a beautiful world, rich in resources and life. Destroying it seemed wasteful. How long until it's operational? 12 Earth hours. Then we can end this resistance permanently. Voss nodded slowly. Continue the ground invasion. Keep them distracted while the weapon is completed. As his officers carried out his orders, Voss returned to the question that had haunted him since the first battle. Where was the Leviathan? Inside Jupiter's turbulent atmosphere, Dr. Morgan made the final adjustments to Project Kraken. The device hummed with power, its complex arrays of quantum receivers glowing softly. We've tripled its range, she told Drake. It should be able to reach their command network from a much greater distance now. Will it work? Drake asked simply. Morgan hesitated. In theory, yes. But we've never tested it against their actual network. No time like the present, Drake said. He turned to the bridge crew. Prepare to leave Jupiter's atmosphere. Set course for Saturn. Bell looked up in surprise. Saturn, not Earth. Drake shook his head. Our spies report the Dominion is building something big in Saturn's rings, something that could destroy Earth entirely. We need to stop it. The Leviathan's engines powered up, pushing against Jupiter's thick clouds. Slowly, the massive ship rose through the layers of atmosphere until finally breaking free into open space. No sign of Dominion pursuit, Bell reported. They still don't know where we are. Good, Drake said. Full speed to Saturn. And ready all weapons. This won't be a quiet approach. On Earth, the battle for survival continued. In cities across the globe, humans fought with everything they had against the Dominion invaders. Old weapons were pulled from museums, sports equipment became makeshift armor, and civilian vehicles were turned into improvised fighting machines. In London, a group of dock workers used cranes to trap and crush a Dominion walker. In Rio, hang gliders dropped homemade bombs on enemy positions. The Dominion had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they found themselves fighting for every inch of ground. But it wasn't enough. Slowly, inevitably, the alien forces pushed forward. Their superior weapons and armor gave them an advantage that courage alone couldn't overcome. In the New Geneva bunker, President Carter received the worst news yet. They've broken through our last defensive line in North America. Eastern Europe has fallen. Africa is holding, but they're running out of ammunition. She closed her eyes briefly. How much longer can we last? General Wilson's answer was blunt. Without help, maybe 24 hours. The Leviathan approached Saturn on a stealth trajectory, using the planet's rings for cover. Through the ship's powerful telescopes, Drake could see the massive weapon the Dominion was building. It resembled a giant claw, its center filled with pulsing energy that grew brighter by the minute. Analysis, he asked. It's using the same quantum technology as their communication network, Dr. Morgan replied, studying the data, but amplified 1,000 times. When activated, it could tear Earth's crust apart. Drake nodded grimly. Then we stop it. How close do we need to get for Project Kraken to work? With the boosted range, about 50,000 kilometers, but we'll be detected long before we get that close. Drake smiled thinly. That's what they expect. So we'll do something unexpected. He turned to the weapons officer. Prepare all missiles. Load them with the sensor jamming packages. The plan was simple but desperate. The Leviathan would fire its entire missile complement at once, not to destroy the Dominion fleet, but to create a massive sensor blackout. In the confusion, they would slip closer, activate Project Kraken, and pray it worked. All hands to battle stations, Drake ordered. This is it. The fate of Earth depends on what happens in the next hour. As the Leviathan moved into position, the crew could see hundreds of Dominion ships surrounding the planet killer weapon. The odds were impossible, the mission likely suicidal. But they were humanity's last hope. Drake took a deep breath and gave the order. Fire. Space lit up as the Leviathan's missiles streaked toward the Dominion fleet. They weren't aimed to destroy. They were designed to blind. Each missile burst into clouds of electronic interference, scrambling sensors and communications across the entire region. Confusion spreading through the Dominion fleet, Bell reported, watching the tactical display. Their ships are breaking formation. Drake nodded grimly. Now's our chance. Full power to engines. The Leviathan surged forward, its massive bulk surprisingly nimble as it weaved between the drifting Dominion vessels. Alarms blared as enemy ships fired blindly into the sensor-jamming clouds, hoping to hit something, anything. Taking fire. But they can't lock onto us, the weapons officer called out. Shields holding at 80%. Drake kept his eyes on the planet-killer weapon ahead. The massive construct continued to pulse with growing energy. They had minutes at most before it would be operational. Distance to optimal range for Project Kraken, Drake asked. Dr. Morgan checked her instruments. 70,000 kilometers and closing. We need to get closer. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a lucky shot from a Dominion cruiser struck their port side. Hull breach on Deck 7. Someone shouted. Emergency teams responding. Drake gripped his chair as the Leviathan shuddered. Stay on course. On his flagship, now drifting amid the chaos, Admiral Voss struggled to understand what was happening. Restore sensors, he demanded. Find that human ship. Impossible, Admiral, his second replied. The interference is too strong. We're effectively blind. Voss slammed his fist against his command console. The planet killer. Is it still on schedule? The second checked a separate communications link. Yes, Admiral. The weapon is at 90% power. It will fire in approximately 7 Earth minutes. Voss nodded, somewhat calmed. Then it doesn't matter. Even if they've somehow found us, they can't stop what's coming. The Leviathan pushed deeper into the heart of the Dominion fleet, taking hit after hit as it approached the massive weapon. The sensor jamming was beginning to fade, and more enemy ships were finding their target. Shields at 40% and falling, Bell reported. We can't take much more of this. Distance to optimal range, Drake demanded. 55,000 kilometers, Morgan replied. Almost there. Another blast rocked the ship, more violent than the others. Fire erupted on the bridge as a console exploded, injuring 2 crew members. Shields failing. The engineering officer shouted over the emergency sirens. One more direct hit, and we're done. Drake made a split-second decision. Divert all power from weapons to shields and engines. Get us to that range. The Leviathan surged forward, its weapon systems going dark as every ounce of power transferred to propulsion and defense. The massive ship plunged through a gap between 2 Dominion cruisers, scraping against one with a horrific screech of metal on metal. 50,000 kilometers. Morgan announced. We're in range. Activate Project Kraken, Drake ordered. Morgan slammed her hand down on the activation panel. The ship vibrated as the quantum device powered up, sending invisible tendrils of energy toward the Dominion command network. For a moment, nothing happened. Did it work? Drake asked, tension evident in his voice. Morgan checked her instruments, frowning. The signal is transmitting, but I don't see any effect on their systems. Drake's heart sank. Had they come all this way for nothing? Then something unexpected happened. The planet killer weapon, now glowing with nearly full power, suddenly dimmed. Around them, Dominion ships began to drift aimlessly, their engines and weapons powering down. I don't understand, Morgan said, staring at her readings in disbelief. Project Kraken wasn't supposed to do that. It was only meant to disrupt communications. Chief Engineer Miller's voice came over the comm. Captain, something strange is happening. The quantum device has evolved somehow. It's not just tapping into their communication network. It's taking control of their entire operating system. On his flagship, Admiral Voss watched in horror as his ship's systems shut down one by one. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the bridge as main power failed. What's happening? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral. His second replied, frantically working controls that no longer responded. Some kind of system-wide failure. It's affecting all Dominion vessels in the area. Voss turned to look out the viewport and froze. There, approaching his disabled flagship, was the Leviathan. They did this, he whispered. Somehow, they found a way into our core systems. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Voss felt something new. Fear. Drake couldn't believe their luck. All Dominion ships in range are powered down, Bell reported, including the planet killer. How is this possible? Drake asked, turning to Morgan. She shook her head in amazement. The quantum nature of their technology. Project Kraken must have created some kind of feedback loop. We didn't just tap into their network, we overrode it. Drake saw an opportunity. Can we control their ships? Morgan worked her console, eyes wide with excitement. Theoretically, yes. The quantum link works both ways. We could potentially issue commands directly to their systems. A plan formed in Drake's mind. Target Admiral Voss's flagship. Bring us alongside. The Leviathan moved purposefully now, no longer under fire, until it dwarfed the dark hulk of Voss's command ship. Open a channel, Drake ordered. Admiral Voss's face appeared on screen, his alien features tight with barely controlled rage. What have you done? He demanded. Drake stood tall. What you never expected, Admiral. We turned your greatest strength against you. Your ships are under our control now. Impossible, Voss hissed. Look around you, Drake replied. Your fleet is helpless. Your planet killer is disabled. And now, you have a choice. Drake leaned forward. Surrender and withdraw from our solar system, or we will use your own ships against you. To demonstrate, Drake nodded to Morgan. She pressed a sequence of commands, and one of the nearby Dominion cruisers suddenly fired on another, destroying it completely. Voss's eyes widened in shock. You would sacrifice our soldiers. You were ready to destroy our entire planet, Drake countered. I'm offering you a chance to save your people. More than you offered us. The alien admiral was silent for a long moment. Then, with visible reluctance, he bowed his head. The Dominion withdraws. News of the victory spread across Earth like wildfire. In cities where fighting still raged, Dominion troops suddenly received retreat orders. Their walker machines powered down, and their ships lifted off, leaving behind a battered but undefeated humanity. In the command bunker beneath New Geneva, President Carter listened to Drake's report with tears in her eyes. You did it, Captain. You saved us all. It wasn't just us, Drake replied modestly. It was everyone who fought and held the line long enough for us to complete the mission. As the Leviathan made its triumphant return to Earth, something unexpected appeared at the edge of the solar system. Ships began arriving, not Dominion vessels, but crafts of various designs and origins. "We're receiving transmissions," Bell reported. "They're representatives from other worlds, worlds that were conquered by the Dominion. They say they've been monitoring our battle," Morgan added, reading the incoming messages. "When they saw a small planet defeat the mighty Dominion, they decided to rise up too." Drake looked at the view screen, where dozens of alien ships approached in peaceful formation. "They want to form an alliance," he said wonderingly. "With us." General Wilson's voice came through the comm system. "It seems the Dominion's empire is crumbling, Captain, and humanity is being looked to for leadership." As the Leviathan entered Earth orbit, Drake gazed down at the blue planet below. It was scared by battle but intact, and now, unexpectedly, at the center of a new interstellar community. "What do we do now?" Bell asked softly. Drake smiled. "Now, we rebuild, we learn, and we make sure nothing like this ever threatens any world again." Outside the viewports, Earth's orbital stations began lighting up once more. The planet was battered but unbroken. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but stronger. In the darkness beyond Saturn, the last of the Dominion fleet limped away, their myth of invincibility shattered forever by a single ship named after an ancient sea monster, Earth's Leviathan. The stars would remember this day, the day when humanity stepped onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The day when one small world proved that determination and ingenuity could overcome even the most powerful empire. The day when they conquered the stars, until their armada met Earth's Leviathan.
The bridge of the human vessel Defiance was quiet, except for the soft beeping of damaged systems. Captain Jack stood by the main viewport, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond. Less than 24 hours ago, those same stars had been filled with enemy ships now. An uneasy calm had settled across this sector of space. "Damage report," Jack called out, turning to face his crew. Officer Rex looked up from his station, dark circles under his eyes showing his exhaustion. Hull integrity at 68%, weapon systems at 45% capacity, main engines working but not at full power, life support stable. Jack nodded. It could have been worse. Much worse. When the Defiance had unexpectedly dropped out of hyperspace in the middle of what turned out to be Galactic Council territory, no one had expected a warm welcome. But no one had expected immediate attack either. "Any sign of them returning?" Jack asked. "Nothing on long-range scanners," said Tina, the ship's sensor specialist. "They seem to have pulled back to regroup." Jack walked to the center command chair and sat down heavily. His mind replayed the battle that had erupted when the alien fleet opened fire without warning or attempt at communication. The Defiance, though only one ship, had managed to hold its own. Earth's military technology, developed in isolation, had proven surprisingly effective against the Council's standardized weapons. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "And next time, they'll bring more ships." Across the galaxy, in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Representatives of 12 major alien species argued loudly, their voices echoing off the high ceiling. Admiral Krell, a tall green-skinned being from the verdant species, slammed his fist on the central table. His four eyes narrowed in anger as the room gradually fell silent. "One ship," he shouted. "One single human ship damaged 4 of our patrol vessels and killed 23 crew members. This cannot stand." Counselor Pell, an older member of the bird-like avi species, raised a feathered hand. "We attacked them first, Admiral. Perhaps they were simply defending themselves." "They were in restricted space," Krell shot back. "The quarantine of their sector has stood for 5,000 years. There are reasons their kind was isolated." From the shadows of the chamber, Intelligence Officer Tora watched the debate with interest. Unlike the others, she had spent the night searching the Council's oldest records. What she found disturbed her. Mentions of humans were surprisingly scarce for a species dangerous enough to warrant complete isolation from the galactic community. One ancient file, heavily encrypted, had caught her attention. It suggested the quarantine had been established not because humans were dangerous, but because they asked too many questions. Questions about the Council's authority. Questions about freedom. Tora slipped away from the chamber. She needed to dig deeper before sharing her findings. Back on the Defiance, the crew gathered in the meeting room. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showing their position relative to known space. "We have 3 options," Jack said, addressing the 25 humans who represented Earth's first deep space mission. "First, we try to run. The jump drive needs at least 48 hours to recharge, but we might find a place to hide until then." Engineer Sam shook his head. "With the damage we took, they'd track our emissions easily." "Second option," Jack continued, "we attempt communication. Try to explain that we meant no harm by entering their territory." Medical Officer Anna frowned. "They fired without sending a single message. They may not be interested in talking." "The third option," Jack said, his voice lower, "is to prepare for another fight." The room fell silent. They were explorers who had been forced to become warriors. Each person there knew that the Defiance, remarkable as it was, couldn't stand against an entire galactic force. "There might be a fourth option," said comm specialist Pete, who had been quietly working at a terminal. "I've been analyzing their communications during the battle. They use a standardized system across their fleet. I might be able to tap into their network." Jack raised an eyebrow. "To do what?" "To listen," Pete replied. "Find out what we're dealing with. Maybe find some leverage." "Do it," Jack ordered. "In the meantime, Sam, get repair teams working around the clock. Everyone else prepare for both diplomacy and defense. We represent all of humanity out here, and I won't let Earth become a target because of our actions." Admiral Krell stood, alone in his command ship, staring at holographic images of the human vessel. Its design was unlike anything in the Council database. Efficient, practical, deadly. His aide entered the room quietly. "The Council has reached a decision, Admiral. And they've authorized a full battle group, 5 capital ships, 20 support vessels. You're to eliminate the human threat before they can report back to their homeworld." Krell nodded in satisfaction. "The quarantine must be maintained. Humans are unpredictable. The ancient records are clear on that point." "There's something else, sir," the aide added. "Intelligence Officer Tora has been accessing restricted files about Earth, files from before the quarantine." The Admiral's expression darkened. "Find her, now." Tora moved quickly through the lower levels of the Council station. She had downloaded as many files as she could before her access was inevitably discovered. Now she needed to find a secure transmitter. The truth had to get out. Humans hadn't been quarantined for the safety of the galaxy. They had been isolated because they represented a different way of thinking, a challenge to the Council's absolute authority. Finding an unused communications bay, she quickly set up the equipment. She didn't know if the human ship would receive her transmission, but she had to try. "To the Earth vessel," she began, speaking in the common galactic language. "You are in grave danger. The Council has ordered your destruction. But there are those among us who question the old ways. The quarantine of your world was not what you have been told." She paused as a noise in the corridor caught her attention. Security forces were coming. She quickly finished her message and sent it, erasing all evidence of the transmission just as the door slid open. On the Defiance, Pete's eyes widened as an unexpected message came through his modified receiver. "Captain," he called over the ship's comm. "You need to see this now." Jack arrived moments later, joined by several other officers. They watched in silence as Tora's message played. According to these old records, the alien woman's voice continued, "Humans were once part of the galactic community. Your adaptability, your creativity, your questioning nature, these were seen as threats by those in power. The Council didn't fear your violence. They feared your ideas." The message cut off abruptly. "Can we track where this came from?" Jack asked. Pete nodded. "A station about 2 light years from here." Jack looked around at his crew. their faces showing a mix of confusion and determination. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we didn't start this war after all. We just reminded them of one they thought they'd finished long ago." He straightened his uniform. "Change of plans. Set course for that station. If there are allies out there, we need to find them before Krell's forces find us." The Defiance turned silently in space, heading toward an uncertain rendezvous and a conflict far bigger than one ship could handle alone. Humanity's return to the stars had begun with a battle, but perhaps it would continue with an alliance. The war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. The Defiance moved quietly through the asteroid field, its damaged hull blending with the rocky surroundings. Captain Jack stood on the bridge, watching as they approached the coordinates from the mysterious transmission. "Any signs of a trap?" he asked, not taking his eyes off the main screen. Tina shook her head. "Nothing on sensors, Captain, but this field messes with our readings. Could be hiding anything." Jack nodded. The decision to come here had been risky. The crew had voted. Most agreed they needed allies, but some worried they were flying straight into Council hands. "There," pointed Rex. "That large asteroid. It's hollow." As they drew closer, they could see what looked like an old mining station built into the massive rock. Metal doors, long unused, stood half open like a mouth waiting to swallow them. "Scan for life signs," Jack ordered. "I'm picking up several," Tina replied. "Not human. Different from what we saw on the Council ships. They're waiting inside." Jack took a deep breath. "Take us in, slow approach. Weapons on standby but not locked. Let's not start shooting unless we have to." The Defiance eased forward, sliding through the open doors into a vast, dark hangar. As the ship's lights swept the area, they revealed rusty mining equipment and several smaller ships parked in the shadows. "Match their atmosphere and prepare the landing party," Jack said. "Pete, Rex, Anna, you're with me. Everyone else stays alert. If things go wrong, don't wait for orders. Get the ship out safely." Inside the abandoned control room of the mining station, a group of aliens waited nervously. Their leader, Mira, paced back and forth. She was tall and slender with pale blue, skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Unlike the Council forces, her people looked almost human-like, except for their color and the slight glow of their eyes. "They're here," said one of her companions, looking at a monitor. "Just one ship, as promised." "Are you sure this is wise?" asked another. "If the Council discovers we've made contact with humans..." "The Council has lied to us for generations." Mira cut him off. "It's time we learned the truth." The door slid open and 4 humans entered cautiously. Mira noticed right away how similar they were to her own kind. More solid, different colored, but the same basic shape. The records were right. "I am Captain Jack of the Earth vessel Defiance," said the lead human. "We received your message." Mira stepped forward. "I am Mira of the Solarians. The message you received was from our agent in the Council, Tora. She risked everything to contact you." "Where is she now?" Jack asked. Mira's expression darkened. "Captured. The Council doesn't tolerate those who question." Admiral Krell watched with satisfaction as the prisoner was brought before him. Intelligence Officer Tora looked defiant despite her bruised face. "You sent a message to the humans," he stated. "It wasn't a question." "They deserve to know the truth," she replied. Krell laughed, a harsh sound. "The truth? That humans were once part of our community, that they were quarantined not for violence but for their annoying habit of questioning authority?" He waved a dismissive hand. "Ancient history." "Not so ancient," Tora said quietly. "The files show Earth was isolated only 5,000 years ago. A blink in galactic time, and they were already developing space travel then. Imagine what they might have become now." "It doesn't matter," Krell snapped. "They will be eliminated before they can cause trouble. My battle group leaves within the hour." He leaned close to her. "And you will tell me who else knows about this? Who else helped you access those files?" Tora smiled thinly. "The Solarians helped me, and they've already contacted the humans." Krell's Four eyes widened in alarm. He turned to his aide. Change of plans. Track that human ship. Now. Back at the mining station, Mira led the humans into a small meeting room where a holographic display showed maps of the galaxy. Our peoples share more than you know, she explained. The Solarians and humans are distant cousins, both evolved from the same seeded species in different parts of the galaxy. Seeded? Anna asked, her medical curiosity engaged. The oldest races spread life across the stars, Mira said. But that's a story for another time. What matters now is that the Council fears both our peoples for the same reason. We don't blindly obey. Jack studied the star map. So where do we fit in? One damaged ship against an entire galactic government doesn't sound like good odds. We have a network of rebels, Mira explained. Small groups on many worlds who question Council rule. But we needed a spark, something to show resistance is possible. She looked Jack directly in the eyes. Your ship fighting off a Council patrol was that spark. News is spreading even though they try to control it. Rex frowned. So we're propaganda? Your hope, Mira corrected. And we have technology to share. Ways to repair your ship, improve your weapons. Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. One of Mira's crew rushed in. Council drones, he shouted. They found us. The small automated attack drones swarmed into the asteroid field, scanning every rock. They were the first wave, scouts for the battle group that followed behind. Inside, the mining station, panic erupted. Mira's rebels rushed to their ships while the humans ran back toward the Defiance. We need more time, Sam shouted over the comm. The new tech Mira gave us isn't integrated yet, Jack thought quickly. Tina, what's the composition of these asteroids? Mostly iron and nickel, she replied. Some have traces of radioactive elements. Perfect, Jack said. Sam, can you modify our sensor array to send out a pulse that would trigger those elements? Make them look like engine signatures? Sam's voice perked up. Give me 5 minutes. Jack turned to Mira, who had joined them on the run. Get your people to the far side of the field. We're going to create a distraction. Admiral Krell watched impatiently as his drones searched the asteroid field. His battle group of 5 large warships waited at the edge, weapons charged. Sir, called his sensor operator, we're detecting multiple engine signatures throughout the field. How many? Krell demanded. Dozens, sir. Possibly 100. It appears to be a major rebel fleet. Krell's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Send half. The drones to investigate. Prepare the battle group to. He never finished his sentence as a massive explosion ripped through the asteroid field. The humans had detonated charged particles in several asteroids, creating a chain reaction that destroyed most of the drones and disrupted the sensors of Krell's ships. In the confusion, the Defiance and 3 smaller Solarian vessels slipped away from the mining station, taking a hidden route through a dense dust cloud. On the bridge, Jack looked at Mira with new respect. Your people fought well. Mira nodded. As did yours. The Council won't expect humans to adapt so quickly to space combat. Where to now? Jack asked. Mira's eyes gleamed with excitement. There's an ancient station in the Forbidden Sector. The old records Tora found suggest it contains technology from before the Council took control. Technology that might help us. Fight back. Jack smiled. Then that's where we're going. Looks like one human ship just found some friends in this galaxy after all. As the small rebel fleet jumped to light speed, news of their escape spread among hidden resistance groups across the stars. The war had only just begun, but for the first time in 5,000 years, the Council faced an enemy they didn't understand. Humanity was back. The small fleet of ships dropped out of hyperspace in a region of space that seemed darker than normal. Few stars shone here, and those that did appeared dim and distant. Captain Jack stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the main view screen with a mixture of awe and unease. The Forbidden Sector, said Mira, who stood beside him. No Council ships patrol here. They claim it's because of dangerous radiation, but the truth is, they fear what might be found. And what exactly are we looking for? Jack asked. Mira pointed to a faint shape in the distance. That. As they drew closer, the shape became clearer. A massive space station, its design unlike anything the humans had seen before. It wasn't the straight lines and efficient angles of council architecture, nor was it like Earth's practical, functional designs. This was something else entirely. Curved, almost organic, as if it had grown rather than been built. It's ancient, Mira explained. Dating back to before the council ruled the galaxy. The records Tora found suggest it was built by the same civilization that first brought humans into the galactic community. The ships approached cautiously. The station appeared, dead with no lights or signs of power. Its surface was scarred by what looked like weapons fire from long ago. No energy readings, reported Tina from her sensor station. If there's anything working in there, it's well shielded. Jack turned to Sam, who had been studying the station's design. What do you think? Can we dock safely? The engineer nodded, slowly. Those look like docking ports along the lower section. Old design, but I think we can modify our airlocks to connect. Do it, Jack ordered. Then he turned to Mira. I want to know exactly what we're looking for in there. Mira's eyes gleamed in the dim light of the bridge. Knowledge, power, and perhaps a way to defend Earth when the Council decides to break the quarantine and attack your homeworld. 3 hours later, a mixed team of humans and Solarians made their way through the dark corridors of the ancient station. Their flashlights created eerie shadows as they moved deeper into the structure. The air is breathable, noted Anna, checking her handheld scanner. Someone designed this place to last. Rex ran his hand along a wall. These markings, they look like some form of writing. Mira nodded. The language of the predecessors, those who came before all of us. They continued forward until they reached a vast circular chamber. In the center stood what appeared to be a control pedestal. Sam approached it cautiously. This design, it's strange but somehow familiar, almost like it was made for human hands. Or Solarian, added Mira, holding up her own hand, which did indeed look very similar to a human's despite her blue skin. Sam studied the pedestal more closely. I think it needs power. He opened his pack and pulled out a portable generator they had brought from the Defiance. With careful movements, he connected it to what seemed to be power inputs on the base of the pedestal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum, lights began to appear throughout the chamber. The pedestal itself glowed with a soft blue light, and symbols appeared on its surface. Can anyone read this? Jack asked, looking at the unfamiliar script. Before anyone could answer, the symbols shifted, changing form until they became recognizable as modern galactic standard language. Welcome, descendants, a voice said from nowhere and everywhere at once. Adaptive translation complete. The team stepped back in surprise as a holographic figure appeared above the pedestal. It had a vaguely humanoid shape, but was composed of light patterns that constantly shifted and flowed. I am Sentinel, the figure said, guardian of knowledge and keeper of truths. Jack stepped forward. I am Captain Jack of the Earth vessel Defiance. The hologram seemed to study him. Earth, human. It has been 5,247 standard years since humans last accessed this facility. Mira gasped. That matches the time frame of the quarantine. Sentinel turned its attention to her. Solarian, genetic cousins to humans, both seeded from the same source material by the predecessors. What happened here? Jack asked. Why was this station abandoned? Why were humans quarantined from the rest of the galaxy? The hologram flickered slightly. This station was a center for knowledge exchange between species. It was attacked by those who sought to control rather than share. As for humans, the figure seemed to look directly at Jack. Your kind was feared not for your weapons or aggression, but for your unpredictability, your ability to adapt, to find solutions others could not see. The Council, Mira said bitterly. Yes, confirmed Sentinel. They established their rule by creating standardized systems for everything. Technology, governance, thought itself. Humans refused to conform. You asked questions. You found different paths. This made you dangerous to their order. Jack's expression hardened. So they locked us away, kept us isolated from the rest of the galaxy. They attempted to erase your existence from galactic history, Sentinel said, but some remembered. Some preserved the truth. Sam, who had been examining the technology around them, spoke up. Can you help us? The Council knows we've broken quarantine. They'll attack Earth soon. The hologram seemed to consider this. This facility contains defensive technology that was once used to protect free worlds from Council aggression. It has lain dormant for millennia, but it can be reactivated. Hope surged through the team. Jack stepped closer to the hologram. Where is this technology? How do we access it? Sentinel's form expanded, and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared around them. A point of light pulsed in a sector not far from their current position. There, the hologram said. A shield generator capable of protecting an entire star system. It was hidden before the final assault on this station. This could save Earth, Jack said, his voice filled with determination. Suddenly, alarms blared. Throughout the station, Sentinel's form flickered more violently. Warning. Council vessels detected entering the sector. Their numbers are significant. Jack turned to the others. How did they find us? Rex checked his scanner. The power surge when we activated this place must have been detectable even through the radiation fields. Jack's mind raced. They were trapped in an ancient, mostly powerless station with multiple Council warships closing in, but they also had the location of a weapon that could save Earth. Sentinel, he said urgently, can you download your data to our systems? We need everything you know about the shield generator and human history in the galaxy. The hologram nodded. Initiating data transfer. Sam quickly connected their portable systems to the pedestal. This will take a few minutes. Minutes we may not have, said Mira, who was receiving reports from the ships they had left docked outside. Admiral Krell himself is leading this attack. 5 capital ships and a full support fleet. Jack looked at the map still hovering in the air, showing the location of the shield generator. They had to reach it. Earth's survival depended on it. We need a plan, he said, his voice steady despite the danger. And I think I have one. It's risky. But if there's one thing the Council still doesn't understand about humans, it's how dangerous we can be when cornered. As the data transfer continued, Jack gathered the team to explain his idea. Outside, the Council ships moved into attack position, their weapons charging. The race to save Earth had become a desperate fight for survival. Alarms blared throughout the Defiance as the ship rocketed away from the ancient station. Behind them, the first shots from Admiral Krell's fleet slammed into the abandoned structure, tearing apart its outer sections. Did everyone make it back? Aboard? Jack asked, gripping the arms of his command chair as the ship shook. All accounted for, Rex confirmed. Mira and her team are on their ships. Data transfer from Sentinel completed at 97% before we had to disconnect. On the main screen they could see the Council ships, 5 massive warships surrounded by smaller attack vessels. They were forming a blockade, cutting off the most direct route to the coordinates of the shield generator. They want us to run, Jack said, understanding the enemy's strategy. They're leaving a path open for us to flee, probably right into another ambush. Sam looked up from where he was analyzing the data they had downloaded. Captain, I found something. According to these star charts, there's a wormhole junction about half a light year from here. It's a nexus point with paths to 7 different sectors. Including the one where the shield generator is located? Jack asked. Sam nodded. Yes, but according to Sentinel's data, the Council strictly controls this junction. It's heavily guarded. Jack studied the tactical display, a plan forming in his mind. What if we don't try to sneak through? What if we do something they would never expect? Like what? Tina asked. Like turn a wormhole into a weapon, Jack replied. Admiral Krell watched with narrowed eyes as the human ship and its Solarian allies changed course, heading away from his fleet, but not in the direction he had expected. They're moving toward the Nexus Junction, his tactical officer reported. Should we pursue? No, Krell said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he thought. They're heading into a trap. Commander Vex has 2 patrol groups stationed at the junction. Alert him that targets are incoming. His communications officer hesitated. Sir, Commander Vex reports the junction is experiencing unusual gravitational fluctuations. 3 of the wormhole paths have become unstable. Krell frowned. Natural phenomenon? Unknown, sir. It began shortly after the human ship left the ancient station. Something didn't feel right. Krell had studied what little the Council knew about humans. They were adaptable, unpredictable. Set course for the junction, he ordered. Maximum speed. The Nexus junction came into view. A spectacular sight where space itself seemed to twist and bend. 7 massive wormholes arranged in a circle, each leading to a different sector of the galaxy. Around them floated Council defense platforms and patrol ships. On the bridge of the Defiance, Jack turned to Sam. Are you ready? The engineer nodded, though sweat beaded on his forehead. It's untested technology, Captain. Based on the mining, techniques we use on Earth but scaled up significantly. What exactly are we doing? Asked Mira through the communication link from her ship. On Earth, we use controlled resonance waves to break apart rock formations when mining, Jack explained. Sam believes we can modify our shield emitters to create similar waves that will affect the gravitational stability of the wormholes. You want to collapse the wormholes? Mira asked, sounding shocked. Not collapse them, Sam corrected. Just disrupt them enough to create chaos. It's like throwing a stone into a pond. The ripples will affect everything nearby. Jack nodded. The Council ships have standardized shields calibrated for energy weapons and physical impacts. They won't be prepared for gravitational distortions. The plan was risky, but it was their only chance. They needed to break through to the shield generator coordinates, and this junction was the only way to get there quickly enough. Council, ships are hailing us, Rex reported. They're ordering us to power down and prepare to be boarded. Ignore them, Jack said. All ships move into position. Execute on my mark. The small fleet split up, each vessel taking position near a different wormhole entrance. The Council patrol ships began to move to intercept. Now, Jack ordered. The Defiance's modified shields activated, sending invisible waves of energy toward the nearest wormhole. The other Allied ships did the same. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself began to tremble. Commander Vex watched in horror as his sensor displays went crazy. The wormholes were fluctuating wildly, their entrances expanding and contracting like beating hearts. What are they doing? He demanded. Stop them. His ships opened fire, but the gravitational distortions were already affecting their targeting systems. Most shots went wide, and those that did hit seemed to have minimal effect. Then the first patrol ship was caught in a gravitational wave. It spun helplessly, crashing into a defense platform. Both exploded in a ball of fire. It's working, Sam shouted over the noise of straining engines. The junction is destabilizing. On the main screen, they could see the Council forces in disarray. Ships tumbled out of control as the gravity waves rippled through the area. 2 of the wormholes had grown to twice their normal size, while others had shrunk almost to nothing. Elsie, ships head for the Sector 7 passage, Jack ordered. That was the wormhole that would take them closest to the shield generator's coordinates. The Defiance led the way, diving toward one of the larger wormholes. Behind them, new alarms sounded. Admiral Krell's fleet has arrived, Tina reported. They're launching fighters. Jack gripped his chair tighter. How long until we can enter the wormhole? 30 seconds, replied the pilot. But in its unstable state, I can't guarantee a safe passage. We don't need guarantees, Jack said firmly. We need courage. At that moment, several Council fighters caught up to them, firing repeatedly at the Defiance's engines. Shields failing. Rex shouted. Divert all power to engines, Jack ordered. We need to reach that wormhole. The ship surged forward, trailing debris and venting plasma. The wormhole entrance loomed ahead, a swirling mass of energy that pulsed erratically. 10 seconds to entry, the pilot called out. A massive explosion rocked the ship as one of the enemy shots found its mark. The main lights failed, replaced by red emergency lighting. We've lost the port engine, Sam reported from engineering. We're drifting off course. Jack looked at the tactical display. Mira's ship was still intact, still on course for the wormhole, but the Defiance was falling behind. becoming an easy target for Krell's approaching fleet. "Mira," Jack called over. The comm. "You need to go through. Get to the shield generator. We'll hold them off as long as we can." "No," came Mira's response. "We go together, or not at all." Before Jack could argue, a small Solarian craft piloted by one of Mira's crew shot forward, placing itself between the Defiance and the attacking fighters. "This is Pilot Alex," came a calm voice. "I'll buy you time." They watched in awe as the small craft executed a series of impossible maneuvers, drawing enemy fire and creating a path for the damaged Defiance. "Get to your crash positions." Jack ordered his crew. "We're going through." With its remaining engine blazing at full power, the human ship lurched toward the wormhole entrance. Behind them, Alex's ship erupted in flames as it rammed a council fighter, taking out 3 more in the resulting explosion. The last thing Jack saw before the swirling energies of the wormhole engulfed them was Admiral Krell's flagship opening fire, its massive weapons tearing through the space they had just occupied. Then everything became a blur of light and sound as the small fleet of rebels plunged into the unknown, leaving chaos in their wake. Emerging from the wormhole was like being born again. The Defiance tumbled through space, systems flickering as the crew fought to regain control. 3 Solarian ships followed behind, their hulls scorched but intact. "Damage report," Jack called, out wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. Rex checked his console. "Life support stable, weapons at 30%, Engine 2 completely gone, Engine 1 at 60% capacity. Communications damaged but working." "Where are we?" Jack asked. Tina studied her readings. "Exactly where we wanted to be. The shield generator coordinates are in this system, about half a light hour from our position." The crew let out a ragged cheer. They had made it through against impossible odds. Jack allowed himself a small smile before turning serious again. "What about Krell? Any sign of pursuit?" "Not yet," replied Rex. "The wormhole is still unstable. They'll have trouble following right away, but they will come." Jack nodded. "Then we don't have much time. Let's find this weapon before they arrive." The small fleet limped toward a distant moon orbiting a gas giant. According to Sentinel's data, this was where the ancient shield generator had been hidden. As they drew closer, they could see the moon was little more than a barren rock, its surface pockmarked with craters. "I'm not detecting any artificial structures," Tina reported, frowning at her console. "It must be underground," Mira suggested through the comm link, "or hidden by some technology we can't detect." Sam, who had been analyzing the data from Sentinel, spoke up. "Wait, these coordinates aren't pointing to the moon itself. They're leading us to a specific point in its orbit." Understanding dawned on Jack's face. It's not on the moon. It's in orbit around it, cloaked somehow. He ordered the ships to adjust course, moving to the exact coordinates Sentinel had provided. For a few tense minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, Tina's console lit up with new readings. "Something's there," she exclaimed. "Some kind of energy field is reacting to our presence." Before them, space seemed to ripple and fold. Then, like a curtain being pulled aside, a massive structure appeared. It wasn't a weapon or shield generator as they had expected. It was a space station, but unlike any they had seen before. Its design was elegant, peaceful even, with sweeping curves and gleaming surfaces that reflected the distant sun. "It's beautiful," Anna whispered. Jack studied the structure carefully. "Any defenses? Weapon systems?" "Nothing obvious," replied Rex. "In fact, I'm picking up an automated docking signal. It's inviting us in." Jack exchanged glances with his officers. It could be a trap, but they had come too far to turn back now. "Take us in," he ordered. "But stay alert." The inside of the station was even more impressive than its exterior. Wide corridors with high ceilings led to open chambers filled with what appeared to be gardens and fountains, though they had long since dried up. The air was stale but breathable. Jack led a mixed team of humans and Solarians through the station, following the directions provided by Sentinel's data. They eventually reached a central chamber where a large console stood covered in dust. "This is it," Sam said, approaching the console. According to the data, this is the control center for the weapon. Carefully, he wiped away the dust and placed his hands on what appeared to be a control panel. The surface responded to his touch, lighting up with soft blue light. A holographic display appeared above the console, showing the galaxy in miniature. Points of light indicated thousands of worlds connected by lines representing trade routes and communication networks. "I don't understand," Jack said, staring at the display. "Where's the weapon? The shield technology?" The hologram shifted, zooming in on their current location. A soft female voice spoke, similar to Sentinel's but somehow warmer. "Welcome, seekers of truth. You have found not a weapon, but something far more powerful. This is the Harmony Array, created by the coalition of free worlds before the Council's rise to power." Sam's eyes widened as he studied the data streaming across his device. "It's a communication system, the most powerful ever built. It can broadcast to every world in the galaxy simultaneously, bypassing all Council communication controls." Jack looked confused. "But Sentinel said it was a defensive system that could protect Earth." "Knowledge is the ultimate defense," the voice replied. "The Council's power comes from control of information. They isolate worlds like Earth to prevent ideas from spreading. This array was built to ensure truth could never be silenced." Mira stepped forward, her eyes shining. "That's why they feared humans. Not because you were violent, but because you shared ideas freely. Because you questioned everything. And that's why they quarantined Earth," Jack said slowly, understanding dawning. "They didn't want our questions spreading to other worlds." Sam was already working at the console. "There's more here. Historical records, data about every world in the galaxy, including Earth. The true history of the Council's rise to power." "Can we use it?" Jack asked. "Can we actually broadcast to the entire galaxy?" Sam nodded. "The system is operational. It just needs to be activated." A new alarm sounded from their communication devices. "Captain," came Tina's voice from the Defiance. "Council ships have emerged from the wormhole. They've found us. Admiral Krell's fleet is on approach. Weapons. Hot." Jack looked at the holographic display, at the countless worlds that had lived under Council rule for millennia. Worlds that had forgotten there was another way to live. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. 20 minutes at most," Tina replied. Jack turned to his team. "Then we have 20 minutes to change the galaxy. Sam, get this array online. Mira, gather every piece of evidence about Earth's quarantine and the Council's lies. We're going to tell everyone the truth." Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as they approached the now visible ancient station. "Target their engines and communication systems," he ordered. "I want that human ship disabled, not destroyed. They must not be allowed to reach Earth with what they've learned." His tactical officer hesitated. "Sir, we're detecting an unusual energy buildup from the station. It appears to be some kind of transmission." Krell's four eyes widened in alarm. "Jam it, now. We can't," the officer replied, panic in his voice. "It's using frequencies and methods we've never seen before. It's bypassing all our communication blocks." On the station, Jack stood before a simple recording device. Behind him, Sam worked furiously to keep the broadcast running while Council jamming attempts bounced harmlessly off the ancient technology. "People of the galaxy," Jack began, his voice calm and clear. "My name is Captain Jack of the Earthship Defiance. You may have heard that a human vessel attacked Council forces without provocation. That is a lie." He gestured to the historical records displayed beside him. "The truth is that humans were once part of the galactic community. We were quarantined 5,000 years ago, not because we were dangerous, but because we asked questions the Council didn't want answered." As he spoke, the broadcast reached world after world. On thousands of planets, normal Council transmissions were interrupted. In homes, workplaces, and public squares, beings of all species watched and listened as a human told them about freedom they had forgotten. "The Council doesn't protect you," Jack continued. "It controls you. It standardizes your technology, your governance, even your thoughts. It isolates any species that dares to be different. He held up the data crystal containing Sentinel's historical records. We have proof. Earth was not the first world to be quarantined, and unless something changes, it won't be the last. Outside, Krell's ships had arrived, surrounding the station. Their weapons powered up, ready to fire. We may not survive the next few minutes, Jack said, his voice unwavering. But our message will. The truth cannot be quarantined. Freedom of thought cannot be standardized. The Council's time is ending. On countless worlds, something long dormant began to stir. Questions were asked. Records were examined. Old tales of a time before the Council suddenly seemed less like legends and more like history. As the first shots from Krell's fleet struck the station, Jack looked at his crew and their Solarian allies. Despite the danger, he saw no fear in their eyes, only determination. We did it, Mira said softly. The revolution has begun. Jack nodded. And whatever happens next, Earth will not stand alone. The station shook as more weapons fire hit it, but the broadcast continued, spreading across the stars like a wildfire of truth. On some worlds, beings were already taking to the streets. On others, leaders were questioning orders from the Council, for the first time in memory. The war that had started with one human ship was no longer just about survival. It had become something much greater, a fight for the freedom of an entire galaxy. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a small fleet was already plotting a course to Earth, carrying allies and hope for the battles yet to come.